Hi, my name is Danica and today I have my August wrap-up. So in August I didn't read as much as I have been doing lately. It's mostly because while I was at LeakyCon I wasn't really reading, and also because just before LeakyCon I was trying to read as many authors that were being featured as possible. I had a deadline and that made me read a lot faster than I usually do. I did read 5.5 books this month though, so I'll go into those. First I read Mastiff by Tamora, which is the third book in the Becker Cooper trilogy. I've been talking a lot about this series and about Tamora in general on this channel, so I won't say a lot about it. Just say that I really love this series and I thought this was a great ending to it, and I'm a little bit sad that that's the last of the Tortall books, but I am excited to start the Circle of Magic series. Next I finished Racing the Dark by Alaya. I really liked the beginning of this book. It's a fantasy book that takes place on this island community where people dive for jewels that they collect from the local fish and then they trade it with other neighboring islands. I really liked the world building that was happening in the beginning of this book and exploring the setting and finding out what spirit binding is and how the main character fit into this greater picture of this world. Then Racing the Dark kind of turns away from this setting pretty quickly. It adds a whole bunch of different characters' perspectives, sometimes only for a page or so. It felt like this book was trying to do a whole lot of things at once and sometimes felt a little bit hard to follow because of that. It's the first book in a trilogy, so I'm sure as a whole the series would be more cohesive, but reading just the first one felt kind of scattered for me, and I don't think it's one I'll be continuing with. Next, I read Silence is a Song I Know All the Words To by Koyczan. This is a collection of poetry that is illustrated, and Koyczan is my favorite poet. You may have heard of Koyczan as the Vancouver Olympics poet, or you may have heard of his poem To This Day, which was kind of a viral YouTube video. I follow Koyczan on Facebook, and one day he posted that he was doing a signing of this book in my city the next day. This was actually the first time I'd heard that this book existed, but I've managed to get out and get a copy and a copy for two of my friends and got them signed by Koyczan and the illustrator. It's a really quick read, but I really liked it. I like how the different poems have different illustration styles. Some of them are really artistic and watercolor, some of them are a little more cartoony, and I thought that added a lot to the collection. If you haven't heard of Koyczan, I recommend checking out his poetry on YouTube because it is best when he performs it. It's slam poetry, so it's really meant to be heard. But his books are also worth checking out, and I would start with Visiting Hours, which is his first collection of poetry, and still probably my favorite. Next, I read Volume 8 of the Unwritten series, which is Orpheus in the Underworld. This is a really great series for book lovers. It's all about the nature of storytelling and how which stories are being told can change the world. In this story, it's in a really physical way, a literal way. I like the new characters that are being introduced, and I'm still really interested to see how this story goes. I also love the artwork in these. I think it's beautiful. It complements the story really well. Lastly, I finished Room by Emma Donoghue. I actually listened to the audiobook for this. I've been meaning to read this one for a while because Emma Donoghue wrote one of my favorite books, Kissing the Witch. It's kind of funny because I didn't pick up Room for a long time because it was so successful. Emma Donoghue has written quite a few books and almost all of them have queer characters. So when Room came out and it was hugely successful when it first came out, I was a little bit resentful that the one book that she wrote without queer characters was the one that got so successful. But it's been like 4 years and I think I've moved past that. I decided to try it as an audiobook because Errol Bissett said it made a really good audiobook. Room is narrated by a 5-year-old boy, and it's about this kid who has been trapped in a room with his mother for his entire life, but he doesn't think that he's trapped because he thinks that room is the entire world. It's a really fascinating concept, and the audiobook makes it sound like a 5-year-old is narrating, but it also has different actors for the different voices, which I think makes a really big difference in an audiobook. I also had one point that was so stressful to listen to. Like when you're reading a book, you can just read faster when you get to the suspenseful part, but when you're listening to an audiobook, you just have to wait. So I was standing there just like hopping around trying to get through this part that was so stressful. So I would definitely recommend this one, especially as an audiobook. I think it would have been a different experience reading it because it is narrated as a 5-year-old, and hearing it with that kind of child voice makes it sound a lot more natural. I'm not sure if it would have seemed the same if I was just reading it off a page. The book I'm reading now is Hild by Nicola Griffith. I'm a little more than halfway through. I've heard only good things about this book, but it's taken me a little while to get through. It's historical fiction, which means that it has a lot of names that I've never heard before and terms that I don't recognize, and I'm really bad with names. And it's also a lot of politics politics and how royalty is passed down through family lines, and I've just had a little bit of trouble trying to keep track of everything. It's still really good, it's really well written, and I really like the main character, so I think it'll be worth getting through, but it's definitely taking me a little while. So that was my August reading month. Let me know what you read in August, and if you have an August wrap-up, you should link it below and I'll definitely check it out. And thank you for watching. Bye!